The radio crackles with encrypted chatter. Below, the Caribbean Sea stretches endlessly, its blue waters concealing the geopolitical tensions simmering beneath the surface. An F-18 Super Hornet banks hard at 28,000 feet, its pilot scanning both the horizon and the radar display simultaneously. The mission clock reads 7 hours, 43 minutes. There are at least 3 more hours to go. The pilot's stomach growls, but his hands never leave the controls. A protein bar sits untouched in his flight suit pocket, waiting for a moment of calm that may never come. This is the reality of extended naval aviation operations near Venezuela, where every patrol demands not just tactical excellence, but brutal physical endurance in a cockpit barely larger than a coffin. Welcome to the unglamorous side of modern fighter aviation, where survival isn't just about outmaneuvering threats or managing fuel states. It's about managing your own biology while strapped into a machine that demands absolute focus for 10, 12, sometimes 14 hours straight. While politicians debate and diplomats negotiate, these pilots maintain constant vigilance over one of the most volatile regions in the Western Hemisphere. And they do it all while rationing water, timing their snacks, and yes, dealing with bathroom emergencies at 30,000 feet. The waters off Venezuela represent one of the most challenging operational environments for carrier-based aviation. Unlike combat zones in the Middle East, where forward operating bases provide some level of support infrastructure, naval operations in the Caribbean demand complete self-sufficiency. When an F-18 launches from a carrier deck for an extended patrol mission, that pilot is essentially sealing himself into a high-performance machine with nothing but what he can carry on his person. No galley, no relief crew, no second chances. These missions serve multiple purposes: intelligence gathering, sovereignty patrols, counter-narcotic operations, and maritime security. The political situation in Venezuela has created a complex operational environment where American naval forces maintain a persistent presence, monitoring everything from unauthorized military flights to potential trafficking routes. But the strategic importance of these missions doesn't change the fundamental challenge. The human body wasn't designed to sit motionless in a cramped cockpit for half a day while making split-second decisions that could have international ramifications. The F-18 Super Hornet is an extraordinary piece of engineering. Twin engines producing over 44,000 pounds of thrust, advanced radar systems capable of tracking dozens of targets simultaneously, weapon systems that can engage threats from beyond visual range. But for all its technological sophistication, the cockpit offers exactly 0 amenities for human comfort. The ejection seat is designed for survival during catastrophic failures, not ergonomic support during marathon missions. The instrument panels surround the pilot on 3 sides, leaving barely enough room to shift position. And when you're wearing a full flight suit, survival vest, harness system, and helmet, even the simple act of reaching into a pocket becomes a carefully choreographed maneuver. So what do pilots eat during these extended patrols? The answer is simultaneously simple and complex. Food selection for long-duration fighter missions is a science unto itself, governed by strict requirements that would seem absurd to anyone who hasn't experienced the unique challenges of eating while flying a tactical aircraft. Every item must meet specific criteria. It must be compact enough to fit in the limited pocket space of a flight suit. It must be energy-dense, providing maximum calories per ounce. It must be consumable with one hand while wearing gloves. It must not produce crumbs that could contaminate sensitive avionics. It must not require refrigeration. It must not cause excessive thirst. And perhaps most importantly, it must not cause gastrointestinal distress at inconvenient moments. Energy bars dominate the food selection for good reason. Brands engineered for endurance athletes, Cliff bars, RX bars, protein-packed options that deliver anywhere from 200 to 300 calories in a package small enough to disappear into a chest pocket. These aren't chosen for taste, though some pilots develop strong preferences over years of flying. They're chosen because they work. The right energy bar provides a steady release of calories without spiking blood sugar, delivering sustained mental clarity during the most demanding phases of flight. A pilot might carry 4 or 5 bars for a 10-hour mission, eating them in small bites during the rare moments when the tactical situation allows divided attention. Nuts and trail mix represent another staple. Almonds, cashews, or military-issue trail mix packets deliver protein and healthy fats in forms that can be eaten a few pieces at a time. The technique matters here. You can't just tear open a bag of mixed nuts at altitude. Everything gets pre-portioned into smaller bags before the mission, sized for single-handed access. A pilot might eat 6 or 7 almonds during a lull, carefully timing the snack for a moment when he's flying straight and level, rather than maneuvering aggressively or conducting surveillance operations.
Modern stealth fighters invest enormous resources into reducing their radar cross-section. Venezuela's F-16As don't have that luxury. Every surface, every edge, every external weapon screams their presence to anyone looking with modern sensors. So before the pilots even knew exactly where the destroyer was positioned, the destroyer knew precisely where they were, how fast they were traveling, their altitude, and their heading. The Americans were watching a high-definition movie while the Venezuelans were still trying to find the theater. Layered defense means the destroyer doesn't rely on a single weapon system. Engagement begins at extreme range with SM-6 missiles, sophisticated interceptors capable of destroying aircraft more than 100 miles away. If a threat somehow evades that initial volley, the ship switches to evolved Sea Sparrow missiles at medium range, designed to catch agile targets trying to close the distance. Should anything penetrate that far, the phalanx system activates automatically, creating that wall of tungsten. Each layer buys time, multiplies defensive options, and forces the attacker to beat multiple overlapping systems. It's not a duel, it's running a gauntlet where every checkpoint is designed to kill you. Survivability is where the imbalance becomes almost absurd. A destroyer is built to absorb punishment and keep fighting. Compartmentalized design means flooding or fire in one section can be isolated and controlled. Damage control teams trained endlessly for these scenarios. The ship carries redundant systems, backup power, multiple communication networks. You can blow holes in it and it'll still fight back. An F-16, by contrast, is a single airframe with one pilot and one engine. One missile hit, one burst of cannon fire, and it ceases to exist. The pilot ejects if they're lucky, dies if they're not. There's no redundancy, no second chance, no recovery. But even this undersells the real advantage. That destroyer doesn't fight alone. It's networked into a task force that includes other destroyers, cruisers, and surveillance aircraft. Intelligence collected by one ship instantly flows to every other asset in the area. If those Venezuelan pilots thought they were facing just the Jason Dunham in isolation, they were catastrophically mistaken. They were facing an entire coordinated fleet, sharing data in real time, eliminating blind spots. And let's not forget the escalatory response that followed. Within 72 hours, 10 F-35 Lightning II stealth fighters deployed to Puerto Rico, putting fifth-generation aircraft just hours away from Venezuelan airspace. These aren't aging Cold War relics. These are the most advanced fighters currently operational, capable of penetrating contested airspace without being detected, carrying weapons Venezuela's military has no realistic defense against. The deployment was a clear message. If you want to escalate, we're ready, and you will lose badly. The flyby itself changed nothing about the fundamental strategic balance. Venezuelan state media played the footage endlessly, framing it as proof their military hadn't been cowed. Domestically, it probably worked as intended, but internationally, and especially inside American military circles, it was viewed very differently. Every radar emission from those F-16s, every radio call, every heat signature, every maneuver was captured and analyzed. The Americans now had fresh data on Venezuelan aircraft performance, pilot training, communication protocols, and tactical doctrine. What was supposed to be an intimidating act of defiance became an intelligence gift. The Pentagon publicly called the maneuver highly provocative, and they weren't wrong, not because it actually threatened the destroyer, but because it demonstrated how quickly these situations can spiral out of control. All it takes is one miscalculation, one pilot who pushes too close, one nervous weapons officer who interprets an aggressive turn as the beginning of an attack. Then you've gone from a political standoff to a shooting war, and nobody really wins from there. In the end, this episode perfectly encapsulates the enormous gap between perception and capability in modern military affairs. Venezuela's F-16s looked dangerous, sounded intimidating, and generated dramatic imagery. But when stripped down to the cold mechanics of what would actually happen in genuine combat, they represent no credible threat whatsoever to an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer. The technological gap is simply too vast, the capabilities too mismatched, the outcome too predetermined. Speed doesn't matter when your opponent sees you coming from beyond the horizon. Bravado doesn't matter when you're flying into a defensive network designed to destroy threats far more sophisticated than your aircraft. National pride doesn't change the fact that one side is operating cutting-edge military technology, backed by the largest defense budget in human history, while the other is trying desperately to keep decades-old equipment airworthy through improvisation and hope. So was the flyby an act of...
These devices, universally known as piddle packs in military aviation circles, represent the unglamorous engineering solution to a fundamental biological reality. The standard design consists of a heavy-duty plastic bag containing super-absorbent polymer gel. When liquid contacts the gel, it solidifies almost instantly into a stable, leak-proof mass. The bag seals completely, preventing odor and spillage. Some versions include molded funnel attachments, designed to work with flight suit configurations, though most pilots view these as more trouble than they're worth in the confined cockpit space. Using a relief pack while flying a tactical aircraft over hostile or contested waters requires a specific combination of timing, coordination, and mental focus that's difficult to explain to anyone who hasn't experienced it. First, you need a moment of relative calm. You can't use a piddle pack while maneuvering aggressively, coordinating with other aircraft, or managing weapons systems. You wait for straight and level flight during a low-threat portion of the mission. Then comes the awkward choreography of unzipping, positioning, managing the pack single-handed while maintaining aircraft control with the other hand, and completing the process without contaminating equipment or losing situational awareness. Most pilots become remarkably efficient at this procedure through repeated practice, though nobody would describe it as dignified. The relief pack gets sealed, stowed in a leg pocket or behind the seat, and the pilot returns to normal operations. The entire process might take 3 to 4 minutes, during which the aircraft continues flying at hundreds of miles per hour over international waters. It's a stark reminder that even the most advanced technology cannot fully eliminate basic human needs. What about solid waste emergencies? Technically, specialized waste bags exist for this purpose, using similar absorption technology in larger configurations. In reality, almost no fighter pilot has ever used one operationally. The reason is simple. Careful pre-mission preparation makes such emergencies virtually non-existent. Pilots manage their diet in the days before extended missions, timing fiber intake and meals to ensure their digestive system is in a predictable state before launch. The morning of a long mission involves a strict routine: light breakfast, thorough bathroom break, and absolute certainty before strapping into the aircraft. One pilot put it bluntly: if there's any doubt, you delay launch. The mission can wait 5 minutes. Your dignity and the safety of the aircraft cannot. The physical endurance required for extended A-18 missions goes far beyond simply sitting in a seat for long periods. The Super Hornet's ejection seat, while life-saving technology, is fundamentally uncomfortable for marathon sessions. The pilot sits slightly reclined to reduce G-force effects on the body, but this position creates pressure points that become excruciating after hours. The shoulder harness must remain tight enough for safety, restricting upper body movement. The leg restraint system, designed to prevent flail injuries during ejection, limits how far the pilot can stretch or reposition lower limbs. During high-G maneuvers, which are routine during intercept operations or when responding to potential threats, the pilot must maintain proper anti-G straining techniques while simultaneously operating complex systems. The G-suit inflates around legs and abdomen, squeezing blood toward the brain to prevent blackout. But this compression, repeated dozens or hundreds of times during a single mission, creates fatigue that accumulates throughout the flight. By hour 10, even simple movements require conscious effort. Pilots develop personal strategies for managing cockpit endurance. Some focus on micro-movements, flexing calf muscles against the rudder pedals every few minutes to maintain circulation. Others perform isometric exercises, tensing and releasing muscle groups in sequence to prevent the complete stiffness that comes from motionless sitting. Shoulder rolls, neck rotations, and deliberate breathing exercises all help maintain physical capability during the final hours of extended missions. The mental challenge matches the physical one. Hours of intensive focus, constantly scanning instruments and horizon, monitoring radio communications across multiple frequencies, maintaining tactical awareness of aircraft position relative to other friendly forces and potential threats. The cognitive load is enormous and unrelenting. Fighter pilots describe a phenomenon called scan fatigue, where after many hours of forcing disciplined instrument scanning patterns, the eyes start to skip sections or fixate inappropriately. Combating this requires conscious effort, deliberately resetting mental processes every 30 or 40 minutes. Preparation for these marathon missions begins long before the catapult launch. The night before, pilots prioritize sleep above everything else. 8 hours minimum, preferably 9 or 10. No alcohol, minimal caffeine late in the evening, and strict adherence to sleep hygiene protocols. The goal is reaching the aircraft fully rested, because there's no recovering from sleep debt during the mission. The morning meal becomes a calculated decision. Heavy, greasy breakfast foods that might seem satisfying on the ground become liabilities at altitude. Instead, pilots opt for lean proteins, complex carbohydrates, and plenty of hydration. Oatmeal with protein powder, egg whites with whole grain toast, or Greek yogurt with granola. One pilot explained, "What I eat 4 hours before launch directly impacts my mental clarity at hour 9 of the mission. I've learned to eat for performance, not pleasure." Caffeine management requires similar discipline. A single cup of coffee or tea during the pre-mission brief can sharpen focus without creating dependency. But energy drinks, pre-workout supplements, or excessive coffee consumption leads to the dreaded mid-mission crash when the stimulants wear off and fatigue hits harder than before. Experienced pilots avoid caffeine after the initial morning dose, relying instead on proper rest, nutrition, and hydration to sustain alertness. The pre-flight ritual includes careful inventory of personal supplies. Flight suit pockets get loaded methodically. Energy bars in the chest pocket for easy access, extra bars in leg pockets as backup. Hydration bladder filled completely and checked for leaks. 2 or 3 relief packs tucked into accessible locations. Some pilots carry glucose tablets for emergency energy boosts if a mission gets unexpectedly extended. Everything has a designated location because fumbling around searching for a snack bar while flying a tactical aircraft is both dangerous and absurd. By the time the pilot straps into the ejection seat, every physical and mental preparation has been completed. The jet may carry precision weapons, advanced sensors, and enough fuel for transcontinental range with tanker support. But the pilot carries something equally important: calories, hydration, mental discipline, and the absolute determination to complete the mission regardless of discomfort. The operational context of these Venezuela missions adds psychological pressure that extends beyond the normal stress of military aviation. Unlike training flights or even combat operations in declared war zones, these patrols exist in a gray area of international relations. The political situation remains volatile, with potential for rapid escalation. Every radar contact must be evaluated. Every approaching aircraft must be identified. The rules of engagement are clear but complex, requiring split-second decisions with potentially enormous consequences. Pilots describe a constant low-level tension that persists throughout these missions. You're never in active combat, but you're always preparing for the possibility. Every system must remain ready. Every sensor must be monitored. You can't relax, can't let your guard down, can't assume that the next radar contact will be another routine commercial flight. This sustained vigilance for 10 or 12 hours straight creates a unique form of exhaustion that combines physical fatigue with mental strain. The return to the carrier after these extended missions provides no immediate relief. The landing itself demands peak performance, catching the 3-wire on a pitching deck at night or in poor weather conditions. Only after shutdown, after the canopy opens and the deck crew swarms around the aircraft, does the pilot finally unbuckle from the seat that's been both prison and office for half a day. The first steps are always unsteady. Legs that have been immobile for 12 hours don't respond properly. Back muscles that have maintained constant tension suddenly cramp. The pilot's handlers help with the initial movements, understanding that after such missions, basic mobility returns slowly. Comparing the A-18 experience to other military platforms illustrates just how demanding these missions are. Heavy bombers operate with multi-person crews who can rotate duties, use actual lavatories, and heat proper meals in onboard galleys. Maritime patrol aircraft have enough cabin space for crew members to stand, stretch, or even lie down briefly during long missions. Even tanker aircraft, while not luxurious, provide enough room for basic human comfort during extended operations. The A-18 pilot has none of that. It's one person, one seat, and whatever fits in the pockets of a flight suit. No backup, no relief crew, no stretching your legs. Just brutal endurance in a machine that demands perfection while providing zero comfort. The technological sophistication of the aircraft contrasts starkly with the primitive reality of eating trail mix and using plastic bags while maintaining security over international waters. So how do A-18 pilots eat and survive during long missions near Venezuela? Through meticulous preparation, ruthless discipline, and acceptance that comfort has no place in the cockpit of a tactical fighter. They survive on energy bars that fit in a pocket, water bladders that provide hands-free hydration, and relief packs that preserve dignity while addressing basic biology. They manage their bodies like high-performance machines, timing every snack, rationing every sip of water, and maintaining mental focus through sheer force of will. These missions represent a fascinating intersection of cutting-edge aerospace technology and fundamental human limitations. For all our advances in aviation, weapons systems, and sensors, we still haven't solved the basic challenge of keeping a human being functional in a cockpit the size of a phone booth for half a day at a time. The pilots who fly these missions don't complain about the conditions. They train for them, prepare for them, and execute them with the same professionalism they bring to every other aspect of naval aviation. The next time you see footage of F/A-18s launching from a carrier deck, remember what you now know. Inside that sleek fighter jet is a pilot who might not eat a real meal for 12 hours, whose bathroom is a plastic bag, and whose entire nutrition plan fits in 4 pockets. They're not just flying the aircraft, they're managing a complex biological challenge while simultaneously executing tactical operations that help maintain security and stability in one of the world's most volatile regions. That's the reality of modern fighter aviation: high technology, low comfort, and the kind of human endurance that makes these missions possible.